What a weekend. Welcome in. It's ACC Baseball Etc, presented as always by Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. The easy-to-use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level. Go to pitchlogic.com for more information. I'm Daron Vaught. Danny Graves is here. Man, like, where do we start? What regional weekend was incredible.
Yeah, hold on. I got to interrupt you. I know where to start.
Okay.
You're wearing a fighting necklace. That is so 2000 and I love it. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe that those are still around.
I was not 100% certain if they were until I was inspired by a non-ACC school over the regional weekend, Randy Hood's UNC Wilmington Seahawks, who obviously came up short in the Athens regional. Georgia Bulldogs are the ones who advance, and they host NC State in the Supers. But UNCW kind of brought it back. And I've been, Gravy, when I tell you, I really mean this. I have just been like lurking in the shadows, awaiting the fighting titanium necklace renaissance for years. So my USA Baseball interns, for those who aren't aware, I supervise broadcast interns at USA Baseball. They arrived and started yesterday. So I think I'm going to try to push this movement to get the entire USAB staff wearing fighting necklaces all summer at the complex. We're bringing it back. So I felt the need to throw it on before we started recording. The titanium therapeutic benefits or whatever that they used to prop up, like, have long been debunked, but it's just a thread necklace.
Yeah. I mean, it's so old that even if it was a healing thing before, it's so old, like it would have ran out of healing juice by now. I mean, that's how old these things are.
Or we figured out something better to heal with, right?
Yeah. But I love it, though. I love it because they were the thing. And I love that you're trying to bring the thing back. That would be so awesome if it picked up again. Maybe I'll do it too. Nice.
I love that. By the way, you can get them shipped to you in a day or two on Amazon. And I don't recall what these used to cost, but $19 seems like way less than when we all thought it was making us, feel better physically or whatever. So
I think that's half about what they used to cost.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So
they used to leave them in the locker rooms in the big league locker rooms for the players. And then
see, this is what I was going to get at, because you were in the major leagues when these the titanium necklace craze began.
Yes.
Did you wear them?
Oh, of course I did. Of course I did.
Did you wear like 4 at a time? Because I stocked up for the summer. I'm thinking about kind of gauging what the limit is, right? Do I wear a blue, a red, and a gray? Do I wear a blue and a gray? Just one every day,
I'm sure there's some. I remember some that had multiple colors. Like you could get red, white, and blue for Team
and they
USA.
Twisted them.
Yeah. But I only wore one at a time because I didn't want to get over titaniumized. I don't even know if that's a word, but it's probably not. I didn't want to have it be overstimulated.
Who's the teammate of yours in the major leagues who was like the most bought in?
Probably this guy right here.
You were?
I think so. Because
you were the most bought into the necklaces.
Yeah, like I wanted to believe that it really worked and brought me extra healing, turned a healing process. It's got to be because of my Asian background. I don't,
you'll try anything, right? Like,
yeah. I'll try any kind of like voodoo or whatever. All kinds of nonsense.
Fighten, Japanese company. So shout out, Fighten.
Yeah.
Still existing and still selling these necklaces. They've even got a shop on Amazon. So just amazing. FYI, the Renaissance, the Fighten titanium necklace Renaissance is upon us. For those listening or watching, stock up. Let's do it. Let's bring it back.
Yeah. I might stock up one of every team that's in super regionals right now.
Ooh, that's
Maybe. Yeah.
That's good. That's a great segue. You're a pro. I can tell you've been doing TV all weekend because we have 5 ACC teams in super regionals. So we have whittled down the field to 16 teams with a chance to get to Omaha to the College World Series. 5 of them come from the ACC. It's as many as the league has ever placed in super regionals.
Yeah.
4, just I'm putting this good energy out there before we even really get into regional recap discussion. 4 ACC teams is the most that have ever made it to Omaha from the league. 2006. I know we were I was stumped and talking about this last time. And couldn't remember the year that I was trying to think of. 2006 was the year. You have any idea, a guess of the 4 teams?
You told me, and now I can't remember who you put on there. If I had to guess, let's see. Was North Carolina?
North Carolina, because they lost in the championship series to Oregon State that year.
Okay, so was Clemson?
Clemson was in it. Under Jack Leggett,
the legend. So I got to say maybe Florida State or Miami.
Miami was in.
Okay. Oh my gosh. NC State?
No.
No.
There's one more that made it. They had a 50-win season under a current ACC coach.
Oh, so this is a trick question.
No, it's not. He's still there.
Oh, so he's still there. So it's got to be O'Connor, Virginia. Nope. Oh, Georgia Tech then.
Georgia Tech, Danny Hall. So Danny Hall is the only. Let me pull up this list again. I think the only current head coach who was in that College World Series. Obviously, Leggett is back with Clemson in sort of an advisory role. Mike Fox retired, and then Scott Forbes became North Carolina's head coach, and Jim Morris was Miami's coach at the time. So that is the last time, the only time, the ACC has sent 4 teams to Omaha. The 5 we have in super regionals, all in separate matchups, it's entirely possible we send all 5 to Omaha as 5 of the 8 teams in the College World Series. Is it likely? Maybe not, but they're all just 2 wins away.
Right. I mean, we could say it's not likely just because of history. But,
sure. Yeah.
But I mean, history changes.
The closer we get, the more likely it becomes, even if still not that likely. So anyways,
well, but you say it that way, like only 2 wins away. Really, I mean, I know it's not as easy as it sounds, but like 2 wins and we could have 5 teams in there.
Yeah. Just 2 wins. 2 wins for each of them. You even get to lose one on the way. You know, you could lose one and win 2.
Yeah.
And that's 5 teams go 2-1 in a 3-game stretch. That's not wild to think.
Right.
We do have, I was glad, and I mentioned this shortly before we came on to you, because of the way we clapped back is not the right terminology for what happened between us and LSU head coach Jay Johnson. But the way that we pushed back on his insistence that LSU would be the best team in any other conference, including the ACC. The way that we pushed back against that comment earlier in the season made last night feel like a big win for the league. And credit to LSU, like that is an Omaha caliber team. I don't think anyone was saying anything other than that this season.
Right.
But they happened to get matched up with the best team in the ACC. this season and pushed them to a Game 7. Awesome games in that regional.
Yeah.
Walk-offs for both LSU and UNC on the first day. Last night went to extra innings. North Carolina with runs in the 9th and 10th to win it. Just an incredible regional in Chapel Hill. And now the Heels get to host again for Supers, which is pretty cool.
It's very cool. And I think you said it perfectly. It was huge for the ACC, not just North Carolina, just for the fact that the SEC thinks they're the big brother, and they're always going to think that. And they always say that, we beat each other up all season long. That's why our records aren't. Well, the ACC beats each other up too. So that's why a lot of the ACC conference records are right around 500. But you know what is so bizarre? And I didn't notice this before, and I saw it on a tweet. You might have seen it yesterday too. But the 5 ACC teams that hosted regionals, the number 2 seeds were SEC teams.
Yeah.
All the SEC regionals that were hosted, the number 2 seeds in those were non-Power 5 schools. Right? Did you see that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's why when the seeding and the brackets were announced, it's why I kind of felt better about Duke as a 2 seed. I kind of felt better about Wake Forest as a 2 seed because they didn't get matched up with SEC foes. Now, chaos ensued in both of those because we had a 3 and a 4. And speaking of which, this, by the way, the first time ever, not a single 2 seed advanced from a regional into super regionals. First time, time ever. So it was in every case, it was the 1, the 3, or the 4 taking the regional. So we had
that's great.
The darkest of dark horses in the Evansville Purple Aces. Yukon pulled it out against Oklahoma last night to secure the final spot. And then Florida was a 3.
West Virginia's a 3. Oregon's a 3.
Kansas State and Oregon 3s. And the rest were 1 seeds, the hosts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just like a really fun way for it to pan out. So now we've got a couple of ACC SEC super regional matchups, which will be fun. Looking at you, Clemson, Florida, that's big time.
Yeah. And apparently they haven't played each other since like 1930.
It's been a while. Yeah. I don't have the exact year off the top of my head, but I know it's been a while. Georgia hosting NC State in Athens. That's a pretty fun matchup.
That could be like multiple home run records being broken in that super regional. There's some bop in both those offenses.
I think those 2, and then this is not an ACC series, but Oregon State in Lexington to play Kentucky. I think that one plus the 2 ACC SEC series, probably like the best series of the supers. But who knows? Like, I could be proven wrong. Oregon is feisty. A&M, that's going to be fun. Kansas State is led by a former like legendary Virginia Tech head coach going to Charlottesville. That is a fun angle. West Virginia's got the sort of the Cinderella aspect. It's their first super in program history. Their head coach, Randy Mazey's swan song, because he's announced his retirement at the end of it. And they go to Chapel Hill. Just like so many fun stories. And then you get, again, with Evansville, the 4 seed, that just the 9th, I believe, 4 seed to ever advance to the super regionals. They're against the number 1 overall seed. So,
what was Oral Roberts last year when in super region or going into the regionals? Because they made it to the World Series and they were the Cinderella team last year. Were they a 4 seed? Do you remember?
I don't recall. I don't think so because they had such a good season. I feel like maybe they were a.
Let's see. I have the 2023 Men's College World Series.
There you go.
Right here. So
we
let's
can
check
find
it out.
What a treat for those viewing on YouTube or X or wherever. Facebook, we
or
put this on
wherever.
Facebook too. I don't know. Half the time I don't realize where we're going, and people will mention, hey, I was watching on, again, Facebook was one I really wasn't aware of until recently.
Let's see if it.
So what do you got?
Yeah, they were number 4 regional seed. Through Stillwater and Eugene Super Regional. They became the 3rd number 4 regional seed to advance to the College World Series.
Man, that's great.
Yeah. So
yeah, okay.
Evansville is the 4th.
Evansville
number 4 seed.
Could be. To get
Oh,
to the
it could
College
be.
World
Yeah,
Series.
sorry.
They're
Could
the
be.
ninth-
They haven't
ninth-
got there yet.
9th to get to the Supers. If they were to beat Tennessee, they would be the 4th seed to ever get to Omaha.
I'm trying to speak it into existence.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to speak 5 ACC teams into the College World Series into existence. We're just gonna pound that. The other possibility too, and again, I don't mean to make this a ACC versus SEC challenge, but that kind of is the way the season shakes out a lot of the time, and the way that we talk about the best teams in the country. There's a distinct possibility that Omaha could be 8 teams, all from either the SEC or the ACC. And it could be 5 ACC, 3 SEC. It could be 4 and 4.
Yeah.
I think 5 and 3 in the other way for the SEC, if I'm not mistaken, is one way it could shake out. That's a possibility. It could be the ACC, SEC Invitational, essentially.
Yeah.
My question as a college baseball lover is that, would that be good, or would it be closer to good or closer to bad for the sport? What do you think?
I think it would be good. I don't think there's any reason it would be bad. If you look at college football, everybody says that SEC is the best in college football, and they really don't. I mean, I know there's other good conferences in football, but people say SEC is it. Now, with baseball, they've been saying SEC is the only good conference for baseball for decades. So I think if you have that many from the ACC there, and only SEC and ACC, I don't see any problem with it. I just, it's like, get better then. That's what the ACC has done, gotten better and better and better. So other conferences need to jump on board too.
I think it is good if it is at least an even 4 and 4 in favor of the ACC. Well, that wouldn't be in favor of either. But if it's an even 4 and 4, or the far-fetched scenario where it's 5 ACC, 3 SEC, I think either is good. And that's not just because we are the resident ACC stumpers here, and we sort of want that success for the league. From a broader college baseball standpoint, that goes a long way in establishing, okay, it's the SEC, the ACC, and everybody else, not the SEC and everybody else.
Right.
So when you're talking about spreading the love, it's just the 2 leagues, but it will pull some from the SEC in a way that makes it a little bit, just like a little, it's not like a little closer to fully even field across everywhere. And I get what, like Oregon State or Oregon making it is good for the geographical implications, but also that now is as close to the ACC footprint as anything starting next year with Stanford and Cal. So, I don't know. It's marginal.
I mean, there's good stories. If Evansville, Yukon, Kansas State, West Virginia, if those teams make it, I think it's still great for college baseball, because everybody wants a Cinderella team. But I selfishly want 5 teams in the College World Series. And going into the regional, somebody asked, or I was asked for ACC Network, like, how many legit do you think can make it to super regionals? I said 5. I think 5 can make it. maybe more. Wake Forest and Duke have a really good chance, but like these 5, there's no reason why they shouldn't come out.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yep. So 5 to again continue the comparison here. 5 of the 8 ACC teams that got into the field, super regional teams. The SEC has 5 super regional teams too, but remember they set a new record for a single conference in a field of 64. They had 11 teams in.
Yeah.
5 for 8, 5 for 11.
Yeah.
We like that. That's good. That favors the ACC a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of like you and I, we understand why rankings and the seeding of such teams was so top heavy, right? The top 3 seeds, all from the SEC over in the overall field, 1 through 64, the top 3 from the SEC. I think that was the first time that had happened, all 3 from the same conference. We get it, right? It's top heavy. Yeah. Those are probably the best teams in the country, but that next tier, the A- tier, is just littered with ACC schools. And that's the part that can sometimes get overlooked. So it makes sense that the ACC teams that got in, more of them than not, good enough to advance. And the SEC teams that got in, there was some down on the bottom end of that 11 teams that did not advance. It's also, potential reason for argument that, just like the RPI boosts the resumes of middling SEC teams for them to get in.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't that happen for the ACC too? So, maybe if it's viewed a certain way, then, we're looking at a Louisville gets in for the ACC as well and doesn't advance. Like, I don't know which way I would rather have it. I think the way we've got it now is perfectly fine with me. You know what I mean? Like if the ACC would have gotten 9 or 10 in and still just the 5 advancing to supers, that seems right to me. That's fine. But anyways, we're doing the thing where we compare the conferences and we kind of hate it, but we also participate in it. So it's fun.
Yeah. Well, we're the ones that started the narrative here, So
I mean, at the very least, we have acquired some massive megaphones and we are holding it up to that narrative.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's kind of the reason we exist here as we do on ACC Baseball Etc.
And you say megaphone, and the shape of a megaphone, if you stand it up, it's like an A for ACC, right?
It's not S-shaped. Makes you think. All right, so let's talk matchups here. I think starting with the highest seeds, I think for North Carolina, obviously you don't want to overlook a galvanized West Virginia team.
Right.
That has an outgoing head coach. And I don't mean that like he's extroverted, fun to be around at parties. I mean that like he's on his way out at the end of his career.
Yeah,
Randy
retirement,
Macy.
right.
A guy who, like, I've covered some games of his in ACC schools before, and like such a great dude to work with and deal with in those scenarios. So I have found myself since dealing with him in those circumstances, kind of rooting for them. He's got JJ Weatherholt, likely a top 10 pick, very good hitter.
Yeah.
Like, you can't overlook West Virginia, but does it feel like the huge boulder has been pushed to the top of the hill and now it's rolling back down since North Carolina got by LSU? Is that fair to say? Does it feel that way?
Yeah. Like, I feel like the biggest obstacle was going to be LSU for North Carolina and how they were going to mix and match their pitching against that offense. And to be honest with you, how are they going to react to pitchers that they've never seen before? And usually LSU does this every year. Their pitchers aren't very good during the season, but when it comes regional, super regional, even World Series, they dominate. Like that guy last night, I can't even remember his name. The senior threw
Helmers.
5+ innings. Yeah.
Helmers was great last night. Thatcher Hurd,
Hurd.
Thatcher's
he did it
got
last
good
year in
stuff.
the World Series.
Thatcher's got great stuff and is a buzzy name, has been for a few years. But I mean, he had like a 7 ERA this year.
Yes.
And was lights out in that start.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. They have guys that show up when they need them to.
Yeah. And now I think North Carolina, it was almost an eye opener having to come from behind so many times during this regional. In game 1, they were toast, right? And then Gallagher hits the grand slam. And then last night they were toast until the 9th inning when, and here's my point about all this. West Virginia's pitching staff, their ERA is below 5 as a whole, which this day and age, that's very good. So obviously, I don't know who their pitchers are, but they obviously can pitch a little bit. But when they brought in their ace last night, LSU, that lefty that throws mid-90s, I felt like I told these guys we were on standby for the show. And I said, this might be what North Carolina needs. They need somebody that can really pitch to be able to get some hits and jump on them. Well, they seemed a lot more comfortable when that dude came in, the lefty. I can't remember. Rush? Is that Rush?
Gage jump.
Oh,
jump.
Gage jump. That's what it was.
It's a verb. Yeah. It's an action verb.
Yeah. Rush or jump.
Yeah.
It's 4 letters. It works. And it's got a U in it. So, but yeah, so when he came in, like they looked so off balance against those other pitchers, and not to discredit those other guys. They're obviously good enough to pitch it in Division I, but they weren't the go-to guys for LSU throughout the whole year. So North Carolina's bats, they were all off balance and, a lot of 3 up, 3 down innings. But then when Jump came in, it's almost like they woke up, like they needed some elite pitching. So now if that's what West Virginia has, I think North Carolina's offense is going to be just fine. And they got a whole week to get DeCaro ready to go, to get deep into the game. And I feel really good about North Carolina this weekend.
I think there are certain teams too that the format sets up nicely for them. There's an unpredictable nature to the regional, the double elimination, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it so chaotic. Is it's very, very difficult to plan a pitching staff for.
Right.
Now we're back to 3-game series. Teams have been doing this all year. Mm-hmm. It's a 3-game series. You're trying to win 2 of them. It's literally every weekend of the regular season.
Yeah.
It feels a little more under control. And obviously that's going to be the case with West Virginia as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're North Carolina, you have felt really good about your pitching situation all season long. So you've got Jason DeCaro going Friday. You've got Chase Bragg, assumedly, who's going to go Saturday. You've got Aiden Houck to go Sunday. Like this is the routine. And
you've got a really good bullpen.
Yeah, and the great bullpen with Mateus, who was awesome last night.
Yes.
And Dalton Pence, who was he continues in the back half of the season to be one of the best relievers in college baseball.
Yep.
So you feel great about the 3-game setup if you're North Carolina. You really do. So yeah, like I just think this sets up when you get to the supers. There's a reason that Oral Roberts was just the 3rd, 4th seed. It's because the teams obviously that they're playing at this level are better over the span of the season. Mm-hmm. And you're hosting, you're back to a normal scenario where it feels like a normal series. Mm-hmm. And when everything else is just like more comfortable, even for both sides, that's when the better teams win. And especially you give a series, so you offer the opportunity for kind of a fluky game, a bad bounce to go the other team's way. Like more often than not, the better team in these circumstances is going to win 2 of the 3. So for that reason, I feel very, very good about North Carolina in particular.
Yeah, right there with you. I mean, West Virginia, great season, but I think it comes to an end. North Carolina is feeling good about everything now. And the bottom of their lineup is feeling good now. Madera and Wilkerson getting those big hits. guys coming off the bench, contributing. Like there's so much depth offensively and with that pitching staff. So, and then a few days here to recover and get their minds right. I feel good about North Carolina.
And they had guys who didn't even hit particularly well in the regional.
Right.
Casey Cook and Parks Harbor down weekends.
Yeah. Casey Cook hit some balls on the screws though. Like a bunch right at him. But yeah, he didn't really light it up like people probably expected him to, but I think he had some good at bats. Parks Harbor though, you're right. Like prior to 2 nights ago, he hadn't done really a whole lot since that game that they hit 4 homers in the first inning in the championship. Like he's been scuffling. So
you mentioned Gavin Gallagher before we move on from North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, an incredible weekend. That's a true freshman who made play after play defensively.
Yeah.
The walk-off, he just came through over and over again. Like that guy had a great weekend.
Yep. He did.
So we got FSU hosting Yukon. We've got Virginia hosting Kansas State. Clemson, Florida, NC State going to Georgia. So of the ACC teams here, NC State is the only road team. Does this feel like the least likely of the 5?
I don't know. I don't think Georgia can pitch for such a good team that they mashed. Charlie Condon especially. But you see what teams did to him in the regional. They pitched around him as much as possible. Didn't give him a chance to beat you, so why not keep doing that, right? If I'm
it worked out for Georgia Tech a couple of times.
Don't let him beat you. And Georgia's pitching staff, their team ERA is 5.6. NC State can hit. NC State can really hit. And the way that their pitchers threw this weekend with Dom Fritton throwing well, Sam Highfield threw well, Logan Whitaker threw well. Dude, they were good, really good. And their bullpen with Dudan and Smith, they were unhittable. I know they gave up 1 run between the 2 of them, but it wasn't even fair.
The sort of 2 closer situation has really manifested for them down the stretch of this season. Dudan was clearly from the start of the season kind of destined for that role.
Mm-hmm.
Smith has grabbed it by the horns a bit. Also, I know you weren't on when we did this, but Steven Schock and I did our episode about best walk-up songs. Massive oversight when it comes to Derek Smith. He a lot of people call him D-Rock. And he came out to close the regional final and ultimately sealed it. He walks out to the Rock's entrance music.
No.
It's awesome. It's incredible. So that's super.
I love
cannot wait to see more of Derek Smith. That's
I love that.
Really good. And you mentioned the starting pitching, Gravy. Like, keep in mind, these dudes have been here before.
Yep.
Highfield, when he set new career highs earlier in the regular season, he was, he was leapfrogging numbers that he had put up in the 2021 season.
Yeah.
So he's throwing well. He's obviously going to be ready for these situations. He's not new to this. Whitaker has dealt with some injuries throughout his career, but he's been on the team for these runs.
Fritton has been great the last few starts.
Fritton's figured it out, apparently. After having sort of a sophomore slump, toward especially the beginning of the year, he just something wasn't right. But so they figured it out evidently. So I don't know, man. Like I like this NC State team, and I do too. The experience is one thing, and Elliot Avent talked about sort of more generally Garrett Pennington coming from Wichita State, Alec Makarevich coming from ECU, guys who have played a lot of college baseball, providing kind of that leadership and maturity for them. I know I have said it a lot when his name comes up. Makarevich is the active games played leader in all of Division I college baseball. So I mean that is there is no other more experienced player than Makarevich. That matters. That feels like it matters in these situations. So yeah, like I don't know, man. Like George is good. Condon can hit a lot. Condon can individually impact the game if they hit in a way that prevents NC State from pitching around him, right? Like you put enough guys on before and after Condon comes up. But no, I like the way the Wolfpack's playing right now. They're good.
And even with Condon, if you got bases loaded and you're up a few runs, like I'm still not giving him anything good to hit because one swing of the bat, he ties it up. I know this sounds crazy, but I'd much rather pitch around him and go after the next guy, even if you have to walk in a run. Get him to chase, get him to swing at a bad pitch. This dude is hitting close to 500 batting average wise. And then the bombs that he has, it's ridiculous. So I am not letting him beat me no matter what the situation is. You know, if we're up 10-0 here, hit it as far as you want. But other than that, he's not seeing anything good to hit.
Yeah. So there's an interesting point to be made about sort of strategically what you do with Condon because his numbers have been so great. His on base is wild because obviously, it's kind of a Nick Kurtz situation. Like nobody wants to pitch to him. But let me see what I was trying to find what he's slugging. Yeah. I mean, slugging percentage. I know we talk about these things like they're just kind of like common knowledge sometimes. So slugging percentage used to be referred to as total base average, right? It is total bases divided by the number of at-bats. So it excludes things like walks and sacrifices that don't count as at-bats, right? But it's basically when you put the ball in play and you get a hit, or when you put the ball in play and you get a result, an outcome, how many bases you average. Okay? Condon is slugging 1.036 this season. Technically, by walking him, you give him less than he on average earns when he puts it in play. So like maybe you're onto something with literally walking him every single time. If you're playing the percentages, that makes sense to me. So I'll be fascinated to see how NC State pitches him because if we know Elliott Avent the way that we know him and Clint Chrysler and the rest of the pitching, the coaching staff, they are a little bit old school. They're probably not going to want to do that. They're gonna at least at first. But if the situation calls for it, I think they're smart enough to do it in a wise situation. But they're going to let their guys try to get him out.
And I totally understand that. And if they went that route, I wouldn't second guess either because they believe in their pitchers, they believe in their stuff, and they believe that they can get him out. And I believe that I could get him out. But certain situations, I'm not going to let him even sniff the ball around the strike zone.
Yeah. Yep. Let me see. Okay. So we've got Virginia, Kansas State. Look, I'll say this for those unaware of Kansas State. They had a couple of guys on the collegiate national team last summer who I think are incredible players. Kalen Culpepper, who hit for the cycle. He had did he have a multi-home run game after that? I mean, he had massive weekend. And if you've never seen them play and you love guys who play with like a little bit of verve, to steal a Coach K Duke favorite term, KC Culpepper, as they call him, he's fun to watch. You're going to enjoy watching the Charlottesville Regional. And then Tyson Neighbors, he was banged up earlier in the year, but maybe the best closer in the country. Right in that mix with Charlie Bielenson, and with Neighbors, there's a little more sort of projectability in terms of being a next level closer. He's got wild stuff. So I'll just mention those two for Kansas State, and the angle that their head coach Pat Hughes used to be the guy at Virginia Tech. He's going back to Charlottesville. That's the storyline there.
Yeah. Well, we don't need any like Cinderella stories coming from Kansas State this week. Good job this year, guys, but end it. No, that Culpepper dude, I did like watching him.
I'll say this about Virginia when it pertains to that matchup. Could not be happier for Jay Woolfolk and the performance he had over the weekend. Yeah. Like you just knew, and I would, neither of us were in Charlottesville, but I knowing some other media types who are regularly there. Apparently the ovation for Jay after his did he go 8 2/3 or
8 plus? 8 plus.
Yeah. 8 plus innings against Mississippi State in a clincher. That ovation was apparently, I was told by people who are there a lot, the loudest they'd ever heard at the Dish. And that's cool. That's awesome.
And he deserved
a great moment for Jay.
Yeah.
And it's a team that we know can hit. Yeah. And what have we said all year about Coach Oak getting the pitching staff right? Okay, it's not been great all year, but guess what? Evan Blanco was lights out. Jay Woolfolk was lights out. Like they're doing that thing again, Danny. They're pitching well when they need to. They're doing that thing again.
Yeah. Jay Woolfolk was the biggest cheerleader for that team that night too, that he's throwing. Like he was hyping everybody up. And after that first inning, he gives up the 2-run homer, then lights out. And this is against a Mississippi State team that scored 19 runs, I think, earlier in that day. So it wasn't like they're not a good hitting team. And I mean, he shut them down like it was nothing. Picking guys off. And if he got in any trouble, he got right back out of it. And you mentioned Coach Oak. So the game before that, you remember Becker was hitting 8th. He played 3rd that night. He had 4 RBIs. Wayland hits the ground ball up the middle for the game-winning RBI. Whatever they scored that, it was the game winner. So you had those two guys hitting 9th. Ethan Anderson's hitting 2nd. So big win for Virginia, right? Well, then the next day, that game against Mississippi State, Wayland moves up to the 2-hole. Ethan Anderson goes down to the 8-hole. Hanson plays 3rd. Becker's not even in the game. Well, guess what? Wayland gets a big hit. Hanson gets 2 RBIs late in the game. It's like, I mean, Coach O'Connor pushes the right buttons.
That's it. When I said they're doing that thing again, maybe that's what I actually meant is Oak is pressing the right buttons, pulling the right levers. It's it's what happens, man. They're constantly in the mix when it comes this time of year. And it doesn't feel like a coincidence. So I'm looking forward to seeing them try to continue the run. Florida State breezed through their regional. That was kind of the quietest regional, or one of them at the least.
Yeah.
Business as usual against Yukon. I mean, I don't really have much to say about this one. Like, what you're going to get out of Florida State. I don't know that there are a ton of question marks.
Well, JT3, James Tibbs III, didn't even hit at all in this regional. Like, I don't even know if he got a hit. He walked a bunch of times, but they still scored a ton of runs. Cam Smith and Max Williams at the top of the lineup. But what was awesome about them, we know Jamie Arnold is going to punch out the world every time he pitches and go deep into the game. But Carson Dorsey, where did that come from? I mean, that's obviously the best game that he's ever pitched in his life, the 8 2/3. If they can even get half of that from him, they're going to be just fine.
And again, in a more conventional 3-game series, that goes a long way, because it's almost the Chase Burns effect with Jamie Arnold, right? Like, Arnold's great season got overlooked because of Chase Burns, but you're going to have a pretty good chance, if not almost 99.9% chance to win your Arnold start.
Yeah.
If Dorsey can give you that, again, all you got to do is win one more.
Right.
So that, gives you a really good shot at winning that one more. So,
yeah. Well, then Connor Whitaker too. 4 innings, 2 earned runs. All their starters were so legit.
Yeah. So that one feels like, again, Yukon is pulling at my heartstrings a little bit because they're like basically the Division III All-Star team from last year. They've got a lot of former D3 guys who transferred, which there are all over the place. I mean, we talk about North Carolina. They've got D'Onofrio and Madera, former Division III guys in their starting lineup who are contributors. So it's cool to see. Yukon is kind of like carrying that flag. I think they've got 5 starters who were former Division III guys.
Yeah.
So cool story. Great that the Northeast has a team in it at this point. But I don't know. I'm kind of expecting a boring result out of Florida State again. That's just where my head is with that one.
Right. Watching Yukon, I know if Duke played even just like this much better, hit this much better, they come out of that regional easily. But they struggled at the plate. Those Yukon pitchers that threw against them, the righty that started, and then the lefty that came in, they pitched great, but there's no way they can pitch like that again. Like everything they threw, it was working. And if they were that good, then we would have heard of them, or they would have been at a Power 5 school, in my opinion. You just don't let arms like that just sneak by. So I think they just had the games of their lives, and I don't think it's going to happen again.
Yeah. All right. One left involving an ACC team, Clemson, Florida. Florida's got a little bit of like that Ole Miss a few years ago vibe, where Ole Miss was literally the last team in the field. I don't think any of us thought Florida was not going to make it, but they were a bubble team, right?
They were making it no matter what.
But they also, I think there's something to be said here, and I think I saw Fit tweet about it. There's something to be said here about teams who are required to play for their postseason lives for the last month or few weeks of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And they get into a mode, right? Like you get into this postseason mode before the postseason even starts. And if you can just sort of carry that momentum and stay on that trajectory, it bodes well for you, right? I mean, we saw teams that shouldn't even have made the field, in my opinion, in Coastal Carolina and James Madison push the 1 seeds in those respective brackets to the finals.
Right.
And that's, without having really played that well coming in. If you're a team that is resume wise in that same area, but you're on the uptick, then you come in and you can do some damage potentially. And again, Florida's got talent, right? They've got guys who were there last year in the College World Series final against LSU. Jack Caglione is probably going to hit a ball over everything at 120 miles per hour at some point in a 3-game stretch.
Unless they just don't pitch to him either, but go ahead.
Which is possible. And I think more possible with that lineup, right? Like, it is more possible with Florida to pitch around Cags. Now, does it make more sense to throw to Cags because he's not quite the on-base machine that Condon is? He's a little more fat, he's a little more feast or famine. I think that's also true. So maybe you've got a little bit more risk reward pitching to him. But that's an interesting matchup to me. I just think Florida's playing really, really well right now. How about Eric Bakich, our guy? Did you see him leap onto the outfield wall out there? Almost. I thought he was going to tear down the stands. There's the part of the concourse goes beyond the wall right there. And I thought, he was shaking. I thought he was going to tear it down. That was so awesome.
It was like the Ultimate Warrior back wrestling in the day when he was shaking on the top ropes.
I really thought making the pro wrestling reference. I loved it. Took us 2 seasons, but that's okay.
He was awesome. Seriously, I mean, I love Bakich. These 5 coaches that are here are awesome. I couldn't be happier for them. Bunch of great dudes, and they just love their kids, man. They love their team, and so awesome.
The big piece. Well, hold on. We got to talk about the hidden ball trick. Blake Wright over at like, how awesome was that?
Yeah. How does that happen? Like, seriously, what team was that against? I don't even remember what team it was against, but I mean, for him to think about it, he might've been just messing around just to see. And then all of a sudden the guy actually jumps off. Like, could he have really been saying, yeah, I'm going to try this? Or is he seems like he's a kind of a jokester that just likes to have a good old time when he's out there playing. Yeah. You know, one of the moments, like, I'm going to hold on to the ball, see what this dude does.
Right. No, I think it was at Vandy. It was either Vandy or Coastal.
Coastal. It was Coastal.
Was it Coastal? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, that's just, we literally got one of everything this weekend, and that sealed the deal, right? We got, again, Culpepper hit for the cycle at one point. We had walk-offs galore.
Yeah. Almost had a complete game. Had great pitching performances.
Yeah. A hidden ball trick. Again, just not something I thought we were going to get. How about last night? We got Mike Monaco dropping a Chapel thrill.
Yeah.
Tied that game. That was beautiful.
Leave it up to Monaco. He's got them all, dude.
Yeah. No,
he said the other day, chaos in Carolina.
Yeah.
He's got them. He's got them
if
all.
It rhymes, or if it's, us play-by-play, like if it rhymes or it's alliteration, it's money. So anyways, this weekend had everything. A Cam Cannarella clutch home run in their clincher. He was great over the weekend, and that's obviously big for them. Man, I can't wait. This is so fun. This tournament is the best. I get it. People love March Madness and the college basketball version of this, the NCAA tournament, but this format, the way it's pans out this year in particular, it's an incredible tournament. So I'm giddy after that weekend. Really, I am
too. Just not good for my blood pressure.
Right. Nah, man, it's fun. Like, it's, for me, it's fun. Like, you know what I mean? I don't, and I know you're the same way, because like, you don't have a rooting interest necessarily.
Right.
What's good for business to a certain degree is ACC teams doing well. But other than that, it's just like, let's just watch and enjoy. And heart rate does get up, but it's in more of like a sort of a eustress way rather than just like stress.
Right.
It's like going outside and getting like your heart rate up with a good little walk, right? A brisk walk. That's how it is for me.
Yeah. This, when my heart rate gets up for this, if it doesn't work out the way I want to, it goes right back down. I can go to sleep. It's not a big deal. So it's not like a stressful high heart rate. It's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Oh my gosh. Edge of my seat the whole time.
I can't believe I almost forgot the hidden ball trick. Is there anything else, that we have omitted? What would, like, it so much happened. It would be understandable if we missed something, but
like anything out of the ordinary? No.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah.
That covered everything. That's good, because I mean, this is as long as we've gone in several weeks. So I would hope that we got everything in. It was a weekend that deserves 55 minutes to an hour of stuff, of us talking.
I think so too. Yeah. I definitely think it deserved it.
All right. Supers coming up this weekend. Have fun with those, watching them.
Yeah.
I saw Kyle Peterson's going to be in Chapel Hill. Been a long time since KP has come this way.
Yeah.
So looking forward to seeing him at the Bosch.
So I may be there Friday as well. We're trying to get approved to do ACC PM from the Bosch on Friday.
Oh,
before the game.
I didn't.
So
I'm glad you mentioned it. That's awesome.
Yeah, if we do, I'll be there for that day.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. So keep an eye out for that. Gravy potentially at the Bosch for Super Regionals. Fingers crossed, 5 ACC teams to Omaha when we do this next. Right?
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Like, subscribe, rate, review, tell your friends. It's the best time of the year to be listening and watching ACC Baseball, etc. Appreciate you. Gravy, have a great week. Hopefully, I'll see you in Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
And
hope to see you there.
Yeah. No, it should be fun.
Yeah.
All right, everybody rest up. Have a good week at work or whatever you do when you're not, or when you're listening to us and not at a game or watching a game. Whatever you do, just take it easy. Get ready for the marathon coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
Thanks again. ACC Baseball, etc., presented by Pitch Logic. We'll see you next